Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's Local Chat, episode 199. That's right, folks. We're one episode away from the big 200. And
we gotta talk about that. What are we doing for that? What are we supposed to do?
I was thinking we hire just a new cast.
Yeah. You know, you ever heard of the episode? You ever heard of the podcast Threedom?
It was Scott Aukerman.
Scott Aukerman, Paul F. Tompkins, and Lauren Lapkus. They're like 150 episodes in, and it's a podcast. It's the three of them, and they have this running joke where they were like, no one else will ever be on this show. And there's like Mary Holland, who's another comedian. They're like, she will never be on this show. She will never. And they're like, and we can't do it with two people. They did an episode recently where it was not them, it was their three spouses. And it was such a weird episode. I don't think I liked it because I understood the bit, but I was also like, I just want Threedom back. So let's not do it different. I know it was a joke, but I was like, very relevant. It didn't go over that well.
Yeah. This is the episode to do it. I have been listening to Comedy Bang Bang since you played that episode on the way to the airport with James Acaster.
I'm trying to think if there's been any bangers since then.
So I also have
good.
I have the archive now.
Okay.
So I've been listening to the best ofs for the first couple years.
Yes, that's what I did too. That's a great intro.
And then I think at some point I'm going to switch over to the show. Like, I think there was a breaking point. I forget what episode number where I was like people like, okay, it's more established show now to just like tune in then.
Yeah.
I was thinking like probably right after the pandemic, maybe that's when I'll start it up again, or like maybe like 2018 before the pandemic, but I still got to figure it out. But it's been really good.
Fuck, man. I think I've been listening since 2020. Sorry. Bought the Miata in 14, got it running in 15. Yeah, 2015, 2016. And it was good before that too. So you could go
maybe
all the way back
I'll start back there. I'm on the best of 2011 right now, which is pretty funny. There's some good bits that I really enjoy.
Does that have Forville in it? Little Orphan Boy?
No,
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
It has Dame Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yes.
And Hugh Howell and Bob Dukas, his father-in-law, which is the funniest bit.
It's so good.
And little Gary.
I almost crashed a car the first time I heard that because I was driving and I started crying from laughter.
El Chupacabra is pretty good.
He's annoying, but thankfully he goes away pretty quickly because there was a period there where he was in every other episode and it was like, this is too much.
I was also listening to some very early episodes where they were saying things that absolutely could not be said today. Yes. And I was like,
and the funny thing is that may have been during their radio days when they were live on the radio.
It's funny listening to it. I was like piecing that together. I was like, oh wait, they were on the actual radio. That's why they're actually cutting to songs and stuff. But it's good. I've been listening to that, and they're very funny. The most recent, or one of the most recent episodes with Mary Ellis something.
Yes, that was pretty good.
With the folk singer, his songs were pretty good. They got me laughing.
Yeah, he's been on before. He's a recent character. He's very good. I'm so glad you're diving into it because it's very good. It's one of the most consistently rewarding podcasts I listen to.
Yeah, and now that kind of rounds out. I like listening to like historical and like informative podcasts, but there's a lot of. It's funny. I like to pay attention to those, so those are kind of hard to listen to when I'm doing nonsense. So it's like these funny shows I can tune in when I want. So I listen to that. I listen to Nextlander's 3 podcasts, or 2 podcasts, I guess. Well, 3. And then I listen to the Astro Goblin podcast, and that's basically it now. And then if I exhaust those and I need something to listen to, then I'll dive into like the Fall of Civilizations or the Napoleon podcast.
Yeah.
And then
it's funny you mentioned that because I realized I do have 3 tiers of podcasts. So the first tier is I can listen to this whenever. So that can go on in the background when I'm working and it needs like the least amount of attention. And that's things like Nextlander, the Bombcast, Shift F1, which is a Formula One podcast from Danny O'Dwyer and Drew Scanlon and Giant Bomb people. So it's related to that. And then there's the next tier, which is like, I do want to pay attention to this, but I can do other things. And in particular, if it's comedy, and so that's like comedy bang bang, freedom to an extent. And that's like, I'm working on a model, I'm playing a game. And then there's ones where it's like, no, I really want to pay attention to this. And it's pretty much hardcore history with Dan Carlin, which is very good, and like Blowback, which I got into recently, which is very good. And those are pretty much exclusively reserved for driving, especially if I'm doing a trip. So like I'll sit on a hardcore history for months, like 3, 6, 9 months until I have a road trip, and then I'm like, perfect, put that episode on.
Yeah, driving for me is the informative podcast. I would say commuting, but commuting more often than not, I was reading a book rather than listening to podcasts. Unless I couldn't find a seat, and then I was usually listening to podcasts. And then it's the same with driving for those types of podcasts, but is doing dishes when I put headphones in. That's a good one to listen to those types of podcasts, because you're forced to pay attention, because you don't want to pay attention to the thing you want to pay attention to driving, but you're
not really.
Yeah, you're not really. You're looking at you're listening to podcasts and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's basically the same with me. But I don't drive at all. So yeah, it's dishwasher. And then the other tier is just like, oh, this podcast is out. These are the ones I listen to. So like Astro Goblin, Nextlander, and now Comedy Bang Bang pretty much supersede all other podcasts in listening order. So even if I'm listening in the middle of an episode, it's like, oh, there's a new Nextlander, listen to that. Oh, there's a new Comedy Bang Bang, listen to that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I know you've listened to it, but you got to add Dollop back in that mix, because they're slow enough. They do a Dollop episode maybe once every 2 weeks now, but it's still so good and so funny that it's worth watching. I had a very weird moment over Thanksgiving, actually, which is my dad continues to dive into his bastard history, where, long story short, he's not a Gibson. He found out recently through DNA testing that his dad's somebody else, and he's been digging down that family tree. And he found out that I'm related to Taylor Swift, like we're like 12th cousins or something.
Hell yeah.
It's not even surprising, because it's like he tracks it back to like the 1700s, like the Mayflower, and then tracks that forward. And it's like, I think I'm related to Elvis as well. Like it's like distant cousins. But he also mentioned that one of my great grandmothers or something was Anne Hutchinson, who was like part of the Protestant Reformation and the evangelical push in like the 1700s in the Northeast of the U.S. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know Anne Hutchinson. And it took me like, he just kept talking about it. And then I was like, wait a minute. The Dollop did an episode on Anne Hutchinson like 3 months ago. And so now there's like, I knew it was going to happen at some point, but there is now a relative of mine in a Dollop episode. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet. Is there a Dollop on Ben Franklin?
There is.
Okay, so one of my relatives is.
Are you making a joke? Because like, you're not making a joke. Their 2 latest episodes are Ben Franklin.
Oh, really? That's great. I am genuinely related to Ben Franklin. So I think it's like a great aunt was his aunt.
Yeah,
or something like that.
I haven't listened to him yet, but
I'm sure they're all about my aunt.
100%. Yeah. Probably.
He probably got syphilis from her. What else are relatives for?
What else are they for?
Speaking of Thanksgiving, how was your Thanksgiving? Did you have a good time?
It was good. We drove down to the Villages. We went to. This is going to sound weird, but it's actually awesome. We went to my sister's in-laws' house. We've gotten pretty close with my sister's in-laws, and they live down here in the Villages. So they were like, come on down for Thanksgiving. So we went down there and hung out with it was my parents, my sister and her family, and then her in-laws and her brother-in-law and some folks over there. And we all know each other. We've known each other for years now. So it was great to just kind of hang out down there. And it was good. I do think the problem though is that I didn't get any leftovers, which honestly is upsetting. That's upsetting. It's just when you go somewhere for Thanksgiving, there's a risk you're not going to get leftovers, especially if it's far away. And it's like, damn, that's the only downside to it, I would say.
Yeah, you're like, is God real? And no leftovers. Yeah, my Thanksgiving was pretty good. We went over to Karen's, my in-laws' house. And Karen usually helps cook Thanksgiving dinner. And then this year her mom was like, oh, get here a little bit later. And they don't normally eat until like 3 or 4, which growing up we ate around like 1 because it was like Sunday dinner time we would do, which is like 1 o'clock. But anyways, so we get there and long story short, we did not eat until like 6 p.m. because the turkey was Karen had ended up flipping the turkey so it would cook more evenly, and then the thighs or the breasts or something were still frozen like 3.5 hours in, or it wasn't still frozen, it was only at 90. So
Jeez.
She basically saved the day so we could eat finally, and it was fantastically delicious, which is a great boon because I would have been very upset if it wasn't good after all of that work.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Not related to Karen's cooking. Have you ever had great turkey?
Yes.
I think I have once, and it's when it was deep fried. Every other. Okay. I get why turkey is a main dish, but it's time for us to start having a serious conversation as a nation about retiring turkey as a main dish, because it's not good 99% of the ways that you cook it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a big turkey fan. It's like it when it's dry, I don't like it as much. But when it's cooked well, like there was one year, that they did the Thanksgiving. I don't know this is related to Karen's cooking, but they brined the Thanksgiving turkey and smoked it for a while. So it was like very smoky and very flavorful, juicy turkey. And that's probably the best turkey I've ever had. To be fair, in the list of meats world, hot meat world, turkey's not up there for me.
Yeah. Cold meat,
turkey's up there.
Deli sliced turkey. Yes.
Hell yeah.
But hot meat, it's down there. It's down below.
Which is funny. It's the opposite. I like hot ham, but I don't like deli ham that much. I'll eat it. If it's in like an Italian, I'll eat it, but I'm not. I like big hunks and slices of ham.
Yes. Yeah. And it's funny because I saw a TikTok about this, and it was a clip from some cooking show, and it was this woman being like, don't worry about the turkey, because let me tell you a secret. No matter how you cook the turkey, it's not going to taste good, because turkey's not meant to taste good. That's why there's gravy and cranberry sauce. And I was like, oh, that's funny. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like, no, wait, that's kind of true. Like the only reason you have gravy at Thanksgiving is really to smother the turkey. Like there's a lot of supporting dishes that prop the turkey up. And if you got rid of the turkey, nothing against gravy or cranberry sauce, but I feel like you could have a bit of a renaissance with the Thanksgiving meal minus the turkey.
Yeah. I'm not a big gravy fan. I had some gravy this year.
Yeah.
I'm slowly turning into a gravy fan. Karen makes like sausage and biscuits, and that's like a sausage gravy that I'm very into.
Yes.
So I've been a bit more open to gravy, but for a while I wasn't a big gravy fan. But my friend from back home, she does a mini, is it Tiny Thanksgiving, I think is her Instagram handle, and she cooks like ramekin dishes of all the sides and makes them look like tiny little portions of it, and then I think it's a Cornish game hen they do as the turkey.
Ooh,
so then she takes a picture and it looks like a giant spread, and then you realize how small the ramekins are. And I always thought that was cool. I was like, oh, I could totally go for like a little honeyed chicken on Thanksgiving instead of a turkey, Or
like a cordon bleu. Yeah.
Ooh. Or a turducken.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even just like a nice Peking duck.
I've ever since the new Yakuza has a whole thing about a Peking duck, and I'm like, now I want a Peking duck, and I don't know where I'm gonna get one. I think there's a place in New York that has really good Peking duck, but it's probably extremely expensive.
Just go to Flushing. Flushing's great. Just go to
Flushing. I'll go to Flushing, and then maybe I'll hit up Wiping after that. Hey, I want a sausage and mushroom pizza.
Long story short, I think we could start the movement to get rid of turkey.
I think so too. I think when do we stop pardoning the turkey? Because he must answer for his crimes, and not Hunter Biden.
I feel like I saw something about how Biden didn't pardon the turkey this year or something.
He didn't?
I can't remember. It may have been a joke. I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to reference something that I can't even remember the details of. Lordy.
Ronald Reagan's pagan spray gun. Folks, after Thanksgiving was the wonderful holiday we call Black Friday here in America.
Yep.
Ian Gibson, did you make any purchases worth your weight in gold?
You know, I did actually buy a lot of stuff on, well, we were talking about this. Did you ever do Black Friday back when it was early Friday morning store rush?
No.
You never did it back then?
I knew people who did, but I never went and did it because my family wasn't like a deals family.
Cool. Gotcha. I part of me is nostalgic for it because I remember there were a couple years where my dad and we would like get the CompUSA flyer and we'd be like, holy shit, they've got 100 CDRs for $5, you know, and we would go at 5 a.m. and we would stand in the line, and then at 6 a.m. we'd go to Best Buy and, you know, buy a TV or something. Like we would just, and this is not a surprise. This is not a shocker. I think everybody's realized this, but that Friday became Thursday afternoon. And that was okay. You know, Walmart would be like, Black Friday starts at 6 p.m. And I remember getting a 2DS on Black Friday, Thanksgiving Thursday. And it was really weird because the Walmart was open, but they didn't let you touch the pallets. No, actually you could touch the pallets, but the prices didn't start until like 6 p.m. So I'm in the Walmart like an hour and a half early, and there's other people wandering around. And some of the pallets, like the TV pallets, were locked down. The 2DS pallets were not. So I just grabbed a 2DS, sat on a bench in the pharmacy for an hour. And then as soon as it was like 6:05, I just went up to the register and it rang up for the Black Friday price. And it was like, I think that's the last time I did it. And I was like, that's taking the fun out of it. Right. And so now you don't even have to wait until Black Friday. I swear there was like a 2-week period starting the week before Thanksgiving where I've just been buying things. A majority of them, though, have been gifts. Because I'm like, you know, gifts I've got the nieces this year. We've got the adult Secret Santa. I've got stuff for Maggie. And so I was like, I was just hunting and I was like, yep, got that. And so I ended up buying probably like 10 things over Black Friday. I'm trying to think of the things that I bought for myself. I think the only thing I did buy was I got this smart watch.
Ooh.
This was the watch that Chris mentioned a while ago when he was on. And he was like, I got this CMF Pro nothing smartwatch, and it was normally like $80. It was down to $50, and it had been on my wish list forever. Have you ever used a smartwatch? What's your thoughts on smartwatch?
I have never used a smartwatch. I would love a smartwatch, but I don't think I am in need of a smartwatch, so I've not purchased a smartwatch.
Okay. This is my second smartwatch. My first smartwatch was an Amazfit Bip. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. The reason why I heard about it was Jeff Backlar on the Beastcast talking about it. And it was an e-ink screen smartwatch. So I would get like 30 days of battery life. It was crazy. I used that for about a year and a half. I thought it was okay. And then that was several years ago. Then I got this smartwatch. This is a great smartwatch. I think for $50, it's really good. It gives you like a majority of what you want for $50. I just don't think I'm a smartwatch person. I don't think I am, because like, okay, you know what I use my watch for? 99% of the time, you know what I use a watch for?
The time.
That's right. It's telling the time. It's going like this. Boom, time. And that just took like 700 milliseconds to show me the time. Instead of me just looking at it, it had to detect it. And then, okay, I can have it on all the time, but then I get 3 days of battery life, right? And I also, I understand some people may want to see their notifications on their wrist every time their phone goes off, but now I'm just constantly looking at every single notification as soon as it hits, and it becomes very annoying. And then the other thing is I don't exercise, so I don't give a shit about all the like steps tracker and all that shit, you know. It has like the Apple Watch like circles, And every day at like 10 p.m. it's like 12 stand. You stood up 12 times today, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I stood up more than that. But also, so what? Are you telling me there's people that are not standing up 12 times a day? Yeah. So it's like it's one of those things where this is my second smartwatch. I was like, maybe it just wasn't a good one. Maybe I need a newer one. And I'm almost happy. I don't know if you've ever felt like this, but I'm almost happy to be like, I bought it. It's not working for me, but that means I now know I'm not a smartwatch person. Like, I don't think there is ever going to be a smartwatch that I will go, yes, this will actually work for me, because it's going to have like 99% of the same functionality as this. So I'm probably just going to go back to my normal ass watches, basically.
Yeah, I can see that. I've thought about getting one, like if I was on the move, but I think I'm in your camp. Yeah. I think I'd be the same way. Because even now, I just wear, like forever I wore a calculator watch, which was great for the moments when you needed a calculator, because it's even faster than a phone. And I honestly miss wearing that, because now I wear my watch Karen bought me, which is a nice watch. It's a fancy watch, but it's I have to look at it for a couple seconds to realize what time it is,
to read it,
and I'm like, oh, same. Like I'm pretty okay at reading analog clocks, but it's just like, and part of me
it takes a second.
Yeah, should I go back to my my $15 calculator watch, because it rocked?
Well, here's the thing, and that was a Casio, your calculator watch, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, but Casio makes some bitchin' watches for $20 available at every Walmart everywhere. So like I have one that is like, it's like silver and it looks really nice and it's a Casio, but then you look at it and it's got the digital time in the center and it's just like perfect. Yeah. And it's got a 10-year battery in it. And I'm like, fucking perfect, you know? So like I've been getting into watches, but I'm a weird watch person where the most that I've spent on a watch was I spent $80 on a Swatch in Rome that was only sold in Rome, and it has like the Colosseum on it and it looks cool. It's also the loudest fucking watch I have. like literally at night in bed, if it's flat on the dresser across the room 15 feet away, I can hear it ticking, and none of my other watches do that. So it's one of those things where like all my other watches, like my really fancy looking $40 AliExpress watch, like my $20 Casios and all that other stuff, like I keep buying cheap watches, but it turns out the cheap watches are fucking fantastic and they have such a variety of looks that it's like you never need to spend more than $50 on a watch. And when you have that in mind, you're like, oh, I can get all these different styles because all of them are like $20 each. And just every couple of months, I'm like, new watch, you know, let me get a black one. Let me get a green one. Why not? It's great. It's great.
I started wearing the calculator watch, I want to say in 7th grade, and I have every single one. They would break pretty much every 2 years. The band would break because it was just plastic. And I would be like, I should get a band that lasts, or I could pay $15 and just get another one. So I have I think I have 8 or 9 of them. And I was just home opening like my little treasure box from when I was a kid, and I'm pretty sure the one from 8th grade is still running in there. So, and the best part about it is it showed that it shows the time and the day. It was like MOTU, and then if you just hold the side button, it just tells you the date as well. So honestly, I might switch back to that.
I bought a Casio one recently. And it's a little chunky. I usually do like small watches, but this it's black Casio. It's a little chunky, but it has 4 quadrants, if I'm not mistaken. So no, it has 3 sections. All right. So the bottom center section is the time in digital. Mm-hmm. The top left section is a digital analog. So it's a digital screen, but it's analog hands moving around, which is like a weird little thing. And the top right is a map of the world with the current time zone selected. Ooh. And then I have 4 favorited time zones. And I shit you not, it actually comes in handy because I'm Eastern. My company runs on Central US, which is easy. That's always an hour behind. But then a lot of my team is Mexico Central, which is 2 hours or 1 hour, depending on the time of year. And our servers are in UTC, which is 4 hours or 5 hours ahead. So it's one of those things where there are moments where I'm literally just like, and I just like tap a button. I'm like, oh, it's that time over there. Let me talk to that person, and again, $21 purchase at Walmart.
Yeah. I need to, I could easily get into watches, both cheap and expensive, but I'm like, I'm going to wait until I can't make myself get into a new hobby. I have to wait until it grabs me and forces me to spend thousands of dollars on it.
I'm trying to come up with the cadence, because if I had zero restraint, I would be buying a new watch like every day or every week. But I think I'm waiting for, I think I do like every 3 or 4 months, or like if I'm going on a trip, or like if I have a business trip coming up and I'm like, ooh, let me buy a new like fancy looking watch off AliExpress and do that. I'm trying to come up with the cadence whereby I feel okay buying a watch. Is it every 3 months? Is it every 6 months? Is it every year? Is it every special occasion? I'm not sure yet. They're cheap, but you're right. That means I need to restrain myself. Otherwise, I'm going to end up with 100 watches in a box somewhere.
Yeah, and you don't want to do that, because that's
a
lot of taking.
I do have a house.
That's true.
That's true. No more swatches. Those things are fucking loud. Looks great. Loud as shit.
Loud as shit. I did some Black Friday shopping. I pre-ordered the Endurance.
Same. Did you get back ordered?
Yeah, I got back ordered. And then I got an out of stock email, but then it was like, it just meant back ordered. But I did secure the record player and the holiday train for the for the gifts.
And I got a gift from one of my nieces from there as well. So all of that is like arriving soon. But I'm glad it gave me time, because I'm working on the tank. So it's not like I'm going to start on the Endurance right away. I need to figure out shelf space to move some of my models so I can find space for the Endurance. And I want to do some research, or at least watch the documentary on the Endurance first, so I understand what's going on as I build it.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm glad I got it before this started any fervor, which you can't see it, but I bought Frank Hurley's photo book of all the photos he took on that journey, because most of them are on Getty and you cannot get good quality shots of them. So I was like, let me buy the Frank Hurley book, which has probably gone up in price. Maybe I'll resell it. But okay, so I pre-ordered the Endurance. I bought 2 one each Hall Effects Xbox Joy sticks that I'm going to replace on my Xbox controller.
Hall Effect, yeah.
Hall Effect. I'm going to do it. So my black controller, my original controller with the Series X, started drifting in Stalker. And I was like, oh, like, are you kidding me? And I had just fixed one of the sticks, and now the other stick is drifting. But I found out there was on one of the updates to Stalker, apparently the dead zones in Stalker 2 were set to like 0 or something. So it was
super sensitive.
It was super sensitive. So there is a little bit of drift, but I don't think it's normally being picked up. So I was like, but the Starfield controller like immediately started drifting, and immediately as in right after the warranty stopped. So that one I'm going to replace the 2 sticks on. But I also purchased a new Xbox controller, which is the same Cypher cool one you had.
And it was on sale for you, right?
It was 40 or 45? 45, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And I paid the full, I think it was 70 when I bought it. But granted, I needed a controller for Extra Life, and I was just like, this looks fucking cool.
Yeah.
It was like perfect timing.
And I wanted to, they have a blue Cypher one, but that one was still at like 60. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll get the 45.
The white one's good.
Yeah. So I bought that. I'm excited about that. And then Karen and I purchased a waffle maker from the good folks at Allclad Steel. So it is a like steel waffle maker with 2 non-stick pans that come out and are dishwasher safe and can be scrubbed washed. So
but it's from Allclad. So is it electric, or does it go on the stove?
No, it's electric. So you plug it in, but in the outside of it's like steel. Yeah, it was a weird product for them to be making, but it's really nice waffle maker. I realized how it worked, which is probably how every waffle maker works, but I didn't realize it's the same way as a rice cooker, where as the steam comes out, it gets lighter. So I think that positions itself off of a weight, and that's how it knows when it's cooked to a certain amount.
Because it does it. On. Yeah.
Yeah, because when I put the plates in, they were a little loose, and I was like, there has to be a reason for these to like push down a little bit. And I think it's the weight.
Oh, so yours is like semi-automatic, because mine is just like red light means it's hot enough, and then you just got to time it.
So this is like power on light. There's a green light that turns on when it's hot enough. You put the stuff on, green light turns off, then it turns back on when it's done. But I think, and there's a knob for the doneness setting. For like how hot you want it. Fancy. But the nice thing is, which I hate with every waffle maker, the 2 plates for making the waffles come out, so I can just go wash those. And I think
that's very nice.
That's the best part. So we got that from the good old Costco, which worked out. So that was my holiday shopping. I still need to buy stuff for family and people, but I'm gonna do that probably like next week, or maybe like the 24th. Hit that up, real quick. Next day shipping. Yeah.
I did that one year. That was a good challenge, was do all your Christmas shopping Christmas Eve. I also did. Okay, don't hold me to this, but I also did, I believe I did the morning of Christmas shopping for everybody. I'm not certain, but basically I knew family Christmas was at like noon, and I was like, okay, this is a challenge for me. I'm not going to buy anything, and I'll just go to Walmart in the morning and buy everything. And the only thing is, I'm not sure if that was Christmas Day or if we just did it on a non-Christmas day, and that's why Walmart was open. But I literally went to Walmart, bought everything, went to my parents' house, wrapped it, and it was a good challenge. I walked around Walmart for like 2 hours being like, okay, who's getting what? What can I find here?
I feel like in the days of, if I went to one location to get people things, I would be able, like, Christmas is just with my parents, so I still have to ship gifts. So like, if I could just go to Walmart and pick up everyone's gifts and then show up with them, I totally would. That'd be great.
Yeah.
But
I've also done I've done only books, and this doesn't work as well in streaming area, but I've done only movies or TV shows as well. So everybody gets a book, and I have to figure out what book for each person. I kind of miss doing those challenges. Those were good challenges.
Those were good challenges. I'll probably do those challenges when I want to, and not right now. Speaking of when I want to, folks. Oh, actually, there was another chit chat section, which is just to say, I took my Ender 3 out, I plugged it in, I printed out a file, and it printed perfectly immediately. And that is all thanks to the BL Touch, which is an incredible thing. The only setting I have since adjusted is the bed heating section. My stuff wasn't sticking the first time. So I make it now that the bed is hotter on the first run, and it does the first run slower, and then it goes off on the next one. But I needed to print some stuff for Karen. She wanted some scissor holders for work, and I was like, let me break out the Ender 3, and she's trucking along good. Nice. So I was happy about that. I was ruining the fact that it might not work well. But I got some tinkering to do still. Speaking of tinkering, we've been playing video games this week because this is a video game podcast. I have played a lot of video games this week. I'll get the quick ones over with. Stalker 2, still playing Stalker 2, going through it. I'm like 30 hours in, maybe. That game is super fun. It's great. And I'm just walking around the zone, killing things, zoning out, and finding anomalies. It's a great game. Patches are coming out, which have made everything better in that game. Secondly,
it's good to hear.
Secondly, I finished Rise of the Golden Idol. I have risen, and the last two. There's a final chapter, and then there's like an epilogue chapter thingy. Those kicked my butt. They were
so I've heard
so hard. I still not as hard as the DLC to the first game, I think, but I took me a while to just find the right thing to put in there, and a couple of them pissed me off. And but overall, honestly, that story was very mid until the end, and I think the ending was pretty great, and I like what they did with it.
That's good to hear.
It's still not, again, the setting and all that sort of stuff, but everything like kind of neatly with a bow kind of came back on itself, and you realized a couple things from the game, and you were like, oh, that's what was happening. So It fully achieved that epilogue from the first game where you were like, wait, what? There was kind of a couple of things like that I was pretty into. Mouthwashing, we played and beat last week. Didn't get to talk about it. What a horribly bad game. No, I'm kidding. It was a fun game. I had a good time with it. I still don't know what it was about. I wish someone would tell me what that game was about, but I'll never learn.
It also feels like one of those games where, nothing against the game, people are like, wow, there's such deep themes in this game. I'm like, yeah, there are, but they're kind of just saying them to your face, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not a great video. I'm not saying it's not a great video game. I think it has a lot of great themes and messages in it. They just didn't do a great job of getting that through in a video game format necessarily. I was trying as the correct medium for it.
I was trying to think my thoughts about why I didn't enjoy it. And I think it kind of boiled down to like that. And this is going to sound like, I don't know, that sort of story and the way that story unveiled itself and that storytelling. Like, I don't enjoy that type of story, you know? Like, it's and I'm not saying that I can't enjoy a video game that tells a real story with some real meaning to it, which Mouthwashing is telling, like, sexual assault story and, like, putting you in the shoes of that person and what things can happen in that. And, like Sibylla was saying on the Discord, like, you've met people like that who try to explain things away and stuff like that. And that whole situation, like, it does a really good job of that. Some of it's a little in your face about it. Some of that isn't. But I think overall, like, it's just like, that's not a story that appeals to me. And that's why I didn't enjoy it. I don't think it did it poorly or it was a bad video game. I just was like I wasn't coming to it saying, ooh, space game. I just want a space game that's not serious. But I kind of wasn't expecting that. And then at the end of it, I'm like, it did it well. It's just like, it's not on top of this because I just didn't hit me.
If I can clumsily put it this way, I don't think I like video games that tell a story. I want video games that make you live a story.
True.
Or be a story or make a story. But if you're just going to use the format to tell a story, but not in a way where I feel like I have some sort of agency or control, and it doesn't have to be a choose your own adventure either, but something like Pentiment where I'm uncovering things and there are moments where I have to develop my own connections with people and there are choices I have to make to, you know, see this scene or not see that scene, etc. You know, that felt good. Whereas with Mouthwashing and games like that, it's like, hey, you're doing a really cool job of telling this story, but at the end of the day, it feels like it's at the cost of player agency. And then it's like, why make this a video game?
Yeah, like if it was a short film that was doing all this, like I still think it was a fun. I still think that way to present it is a good idea. Just when you're saying like, I don't think it was the best video game.
Yes,
as far as like of like a loop and stuff to do, but it was an enjoyable 2-3 hours. Again, I didn't hate it. I really like the aesthetics and that like crashing and cutting to the next thing and the way they told the story with the cutting back and forward. I thought it was really fun and well done. So I'm gonna leave it at that. It's the worst game I've ever played. From one indie game to another, Jutaro I played this week on Tuesday. This game is fucking awesome. It is.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of the stream?
I tuned into your stream for about 30 seconds. I do have to apologize. I didn't make the stream because I went to bed at 8 o'clock. And then around 8:30, I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to get out of this bed? I literally just went to bed at 8 o'clock that night. And I was just like, I'm completely drained. Long week, long day. But I did tune in for like 30 seconds and I was like, this looks really cool. And it's a U game, right? Like, yeah, that's why I wanted you to play it.
It's so wild. It has, if you want to know what type of music Will likes, play the demo of Jutaro, because that like first opening with like just these two people singing with a light guitar is the type of music I like. I gotta buy the album on Bandcamp. It's not on Spotify and I cried. But Jutaro, it's a adventure game. It's all stop motion and paper and stuff taken pictures of and edited in, and it's these horrific people who talk in rhymes, and there's this weird music playing, and you use the stick to do all these fighting moves, and you're killing things. Nice. And I fought a couple bosses. It's just weird. There's a demo on Steam. Go play it. I played the demo and immediately bought the game afterwards. It's super. I got to play more of it. I just wanted to buy it so I knew I had it. It was also on sale a little bit, so I was like, let me get it now because it's definitely going somewhere in a list. I just need to play more of it. But yeah, go check that out. It was very weird. Now, to the main event, folks. The game I am playing, I've officially 11 hours in, is one Metaphor ReFantazio.
Now, okay, look, I'm sure this is a great game. Before you start talking about the good things, we need to talk about how you wasted 50 fucking minutes of my life the other night having to watch this stream in which it was just anime cutscenes. I mean, of the 50 minutes that I watched, I swear you had control for maybe 2 minutes of that.
Not true. I was buttoning through the dialogue. That's control. I controlled. Yeah, it does not open well. I don't listen. Also, I will posit this whole conversation with saying that this is my first Atlas RPG, right? This is Atlas. Or the people from Atlas,
yes.
Yeah. So anything I say that is in any of the other games, shut the fuck up, because this is the first one I played, and it invented all of it.
And it's not excusing it either.
No, not at all. Yeah. The opening of this game is rough. It takes a while to really get going. I will also say out the gate, I hate the main character. He sucks. He's like a little boy, and he talks like an idiot. And I don't understand anything about him, and I want to play a cool hero, and I don't know if any of that's going to change, but everyone else is cooler than him, and I hate playing as him, and he's a little dweeb. And also, I forgot that I named my spirit guide Charlton H, because every time it's like, there's this like big mystery in the game, and they're like, I can't quite read what it says, but I think I can make out Charlton H. And I go, damn it, Charlton Heston, you bastard. Which I think is very funny. But I will say, after I played the game for 4 hours, and that is where, not where the demo ends, that's where it tells you the demo will end in 3 in-game days. So I got 4 hours worth of game from that demo. At the end of that demo, that game picks up. I kind of want to tell you about it. It's light spoilers for people who are listening. I know Ian doesn't care.
I can put some time on the clock real quick if you give me a second.
Oh, you want to put some
time? How much time you want?
Give me 2 minutes.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second. I have to create a new 2-minute timer.
Okay, perfect. If we could get a new one.
2 minutes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, folks. If you want to skip these spoilers, skip ahead 2 minutes and 15 seconds to be safe, starting now.
Okay, so you get back to the main city, and it turns out the king was murdered by Louise, and people don't believe that. But anyways, you get there, and Louise, they're like, here's the funeral for the king. And so Louise walks up, and he's like, I'm going to take over as king because I'm the guy. But then the fucking palace breaks off the ground and lifts into the air, and underneath the palace is the giant face of the dead king, who is now telling everyone that the people who want to be king next have to win the favor of the people. And there's a giant stone statue of all the people in the running to be king, and the size of their head on the statue is how many votes they have behind them. And it is also on the king's eye is the same thing with they're just giant, like Mount Rushmore up there. So now a giant tournament has started to win the most like people to vote for you to become king. And so I just entered the tournament, and we have to go around and do all this crazy stuff. And on top of that, you can't kill the whole goal of the game so far was to kill Louise, and you can't assassinate someone who's in the running for the kingdom. So we have to like try to get close to him and then figure out how to kill him. So that's basically where we're at with this giant face in the sky. Louise in the front running with Forden, who's the leader of the church. Also, there's humans, which is what they call these crazy, disgusting giant beasts that are like...
Yeah.
There was this one boss that I fought who was an eggshell with a head attached, and he had his heart above him with people walking around it dancing. And when you broke open the shell, there were 2 frogs having dinner inside of him, and we had to kill the frogs to win. Overall, it's crazy, and it's a weird game, and I'm kind of really into it now.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. I'm glad you stuck with it, because one of the problems I had was I knew I was not going to stick with it. I knew I would probably like it, but even if I liked it, I knew I would probably only play half of it. And that's why I was pushing for I was really hoping either you or Jake would try this game, because I feel like you would be the two that would be the right combination of enjoying it and sticking with it to give it time, which is not something I would do. So I'm glad you are getting some enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, it's fun. Like I said, I'm 11 hours in. The archetype system is really neat. Which is like you're choosing the different stuff that you want your character to study. You start as a seeker, and then I switch over to warrior. There's mage and stuff, and then on top of that, you can I can pick a warrior, and then if I've unlocked mage, I can inherit a skill from mage into my. So like right now I'm a warrior, but I inherited the skill for healing everyone from my healer class. So like I can still do a lot of damage, but heal everyone. And then on the battlefield, you have archetypes, melee attacks, and then you have the synthesis, which is using people with you. I was having a shit ton of trouble with the first boss of the game, or not really first boss, but the later dungeon of the game. And I was fighting him a bunch. I couldn't win. I was using all these strategies. And then I went on the subreddit, and someone's just like, make each of your guys a warrior class and use the team up synthesis. And I beat the boss in 3 turns. It was like wild. It's just like this. God. It's this synthesis that uses all 3 of them, and then it just does like 1,000 damage to the guy. And I think he has like 2,000 health, so I just did it 3 times. The way the turn order works, again, I don't know if this is in any of the other RPGs, but when you like say I'm one character, if I pass to the next one, it doesn't use up a whole turn. It like uses half a turn, which then rounds up to like a full turn for the next person. But if you pass again, it like gets rid of that. And then the other thing is, if you exploit a weakness in an enemy, it gives you another turn thing. So like, I would just hit an enemy weakness and it gives you a half a turn, weakness, half a turn. Like, so you can't you can't do it forever, because eventually you use up the halves round down. But you get basically 3 extra turns from it. By like using weaknesses and stuff. So overall, super fun. I'm having a good time with it. The storytelling's also pretty great, where I'm like paying attention to things, which is weird.
See, that's kind of my problem. Is I know I will not enjoy playing this game, but I'm kind of torn in two. Well, not torn in two, but there's 2 things they could do that would. Sorry, I'm saying a lot of things here. There's 2 things in this that are really drawing me to it. Again, I'm not going to play the game because I know I'm not going to like it. But if they had that combat and they just stripped everything else out, so it was just like 99% gameplay and a little bit of story, I'd be like, oh, this game's awesome, because this combat system is great. You're always in the combat system, random encounters and bosses and stuff. Get rid of all the fluff between it. I would absolutely love it. And that's not a fault of the game. That's just like, part of me is like, oh, I would love this game if it was just that combat system, because it sounds awesome. And the other part of me is like, from what I did see of the cutscenes in the stream and what you said during the spoiler talk, I'm like, that's an awesome premise. Give me that anime. I'd watch that anime in a second, right? Like, I don't need that. And so that's kind of my problem with Atlas, is that, like we were talking about with mouthwashing, they're trying to shove a lot of non-game non-interactivity into a video game, and for me, very few things feel worse than sitting on a couch holding a controller watching something. It's like I have an agent of control and interactivity in my hand, and you're not letting me do jack shit with it. And it's one of those things. But it's very funny, if that controller was not a controller, if it was a remote and it wasn't a video game, it was an anime, I'd be fine. I'd be sitting there chilling. I'd just be taking it. And so it's one of those things where I'm just like, stop fucking doing this, right? Like, I understand you really want to tell a story. You want to have a 90-hour story, but it's like, find a better way to tell it in a video game other than just straight fucking cutscenes, people.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because there's a lot of games I would agree with that with. But also this game, I feel like there's a lot of cutscenes and a lot of talking in this game. Of the 11 hours I've played, it's close to probably 50-50 gameplay cutscenes. Like, there is a lot of gameplay too, which just surprised me.
Yes.
So it is it is still too much cutscenes, but there is also not too much gameplay. But it's not like an Uncharted or a Last of Us or a Metal Gear, where a lot of the cutscenes outweigh the gameplay sections. They're like very even, but it's still a shit ton of cutscenes. But like, it is a lot of that. Thankfully, when you die and go back, like, you can skip things instantly, which is fantastic. And battles are super quick, especially when you're just doing random encounters. But yeah, overall, it is a lot of me sitting here being like watching it, paying attention, and then being like, I had to figure out, you can't pause cutscenes, but you can open the memorandum, which is like the glossary, and that pauses the cutscene. So I've been doing that. And then I've also been playing a little bit on the Steam Deck, and it runs great over there. It's a little tiny on the Steam Deck. I haven't tried it on the TV through the dock, but if I'm just like grinding out stuff. And all is this to say that 11 hours, I finally left the main city, and I'm out traveling the world now. So I think
that sounds
I'm like
about right.
Actually in the open world now, so I'll be able to see what is. I'm still like on a quest line though. It still hasn't been like, go do whatever you want. So,
I think I just really want. We've talked about this before, where everybody's like, next gen means 4K 60. Next gen means ray tracing. You know, PS4, PS5 Pro means you don't have to make a choice anymore, but you do kind of got to make a choice. But it's ray tracing, you know, and it's like, I don't want that from next gen. One of the things I want from next gen, and this isn't even tech related, is I want game design to move beyond cutscenes. Like, there has to be better ways to tell story. And part of it is like walk and talks, you know, like Half-Life has walk and talks in a way. Like, that's not a new idea, but I just want game designers to come up with better ways to convey pre-made stories where you're not necessarily influencing the choice or changing things. It's a pre-made story that they're trying to tell you, or events they're trying to show you, but not in a cutscene. And I would say not even in a way where you're in your character, but oh no, we're going to force you to look this way and freeze for a second. Like, I don't know what the answer is there, but that's where I want the innovation to happen in the industry. Because I feel like you could tell a fantastic story like Metaphor, but not slap you into a cutscene. You know, there's got to be a better way to get that narrative across without frustrating the player of a video game.
Yeah. I someone will figure it out, and then all of the games will pivot to that once it's figured out. Ian Gibson,
Hi.
Games. What games you playing, bud?
Yeah, like yourself, I've been in Game of the Year recap, hitting some games that I hadn't had a chance to try yet, but were high on a lot of other people's lists. One of them was Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Have you heard of this game? I believe it came out a lot earlier this year, like February timeframe.
This is the like Metroidvania side scrolly boy.
Yes, the side-scrolling Metroidvania. I've been playing it on the Switch. It runs okay on the Switch. It's a little hitchy at times. It's a very good Metroidvania. It's also pretty good combat. Like in the tutorial, they're like, press the button to hit somebody. But I was already doing combos and like air juggling people. Not because I'm good, but it was just like, oh, like I can already tell there's like combo depth behind here that I've stumbled into just by mashing buttons and doing things. So it's really cool. I only played about an hour and a half of it. I don't think I'm going to play more of it just because I'm kind of in a funk. I don't think I'm in the mood for a Metroidvania right now, but I can already tell it's a very good Metroidvania. So it's one of those things where if you're interested in Metroidvanias, anybody else is interested in Metroidvanias, definitely check out Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I've heard big Metroidvania fan Dan Reichert say it's one of his favorite Metroidvanias of all time. That it's
Really?
it's not just a great Metroidvania, but they do a lot of really cool new mechanics and techniques in it. Like one of the things they do is that you can take screenshots of rooms or screens and save them in the map. So when you go back to the map, you can go, "Oh, what was that room?" And then you see a screenshot of it, and you're like, "Oh yeah, that's the room that had this thing in it." So just all sorts of weird little stuff like that are really nice quality of life stuff for Metroidvanias. So cool game. If you're into that, definitely check out Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I think it was on sale during Black Friday, down to like 20 or $15. Um, the other one I checked out is an indie game called Thank Goodness You're Here. Now you've heard of this one, right, Will?
I believe so. Thank goodness you're here.
Yes. This is a very funny British game. It's honestly it's a lot like Untitled Goose Game, where you are controlling a person through scenes inside of a British village. And there's like puzzles in the scene and you're trying to progress through them. It's very, very funny. Like I was laughing immediately, lots of funny stuff in it. I played it for maybe like an hour 15 on stream. I think I got about halfway through it. I don't think I'm going to finish it though, because I started to get frustrated with it. The first frustration was that the game has a really cool look to it, but it doesn't do a good job of communicating visual information to the player. So there were several times where I would be like, I don't want to say a cutscene was happening, but like you'd kick off something and it'd be two people talking and it'd be like, oh, this is cool. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, my little tiny character's already in this scene. So let me move around. And the other thing is that there's certain interactable objects in the scene, or there's certain depth layers, like there's a foreground, there's a middle ground where you are, and there's a background. They don't do a good job of differentiating that either. So a lot of time it feels like you're just moving. The game is back and forth, right? The game is 2D, but it's not necessarily a side scroller because there's some areas where you can go up and down as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there's like a foreground, a midground, and a background, and sometimes you can traverse between them, etc. But a lot of times the visual imagery, especially in buildings and smaller scenes, felt so flat that it was hard to tell those elements apart. And so you're kind of walking around the scene, you're like, okay, can I go back there? No. Can I go forward here? No. Oh, I can go up that. I can jump on that box, but I can't jump on that box because that box is background. That box actually has collision, and that became a little frustrating just trying to navigate through that. And then the other thing was, I don't think the puzzles are very well done. I don't think the puzzles are tight. They're not taut. Like if you think about like Untitled Goose Game, it was like you go into an area, there's clearly one or two puzzles here, and then when you do the main puzzle, it unlocks a door and now you're in the next area, right? Like they did a good job of having a through line. This has that maybe only half the time. The other half of the time, you're like wandering around and being like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. I'm in a big open area. This guy says he needs something. I've looked all around. I can't find anything. Maybe, and so it became a little frustrating, which is a shame because the game's very funny. I would say if you want to give it a shot, give it a shot. I could see it being on a GOTY list, but for me, it was the game design element of it was just not well done enough, which was frustrating because again, it was very funny, very cool looking game.
That's sad. I want to check it out. But yeah, it's sad to learn that a video game isn't living up to Ian Gibson's statistics here. So
it's just the older I get in life, the more I'm like, you got to hit that seal of quality. If you frustrate me too much, I got other things I could do, like playing Foxhole. So Will, I didn't ask you this the other day when we played Foxhole. Have you ever played Foxhole before?
No, that was the first time I had played Foxhole.
Yeah. So that was the second time I've played Foxhole. I tried Foxhole years ago during a free weekend, and Foxhole is basically an MMO World War II style top-down twin stick shooter online PvP. So it's a persistent battlefield with thousands of players choosing one or the other side. Like I said, it's a twin stick shooter, but it's very slow and lumbering in a way. So it's not like you're not playing Geometry Wars, but it has that visual style of top down, trying to look and move at the same time. the other thing they talk about is that everything in this game, in particular logistics, ammo, and supply, is all player created. So if you pick up a gun and shoot bullets, that gun was crafted by somebody, those bullets were crafted by somebody and transported to the front line. So it has a big logistics element to it as well. And I think the first time I played this, I'm curious if you have something similar where you play a game, you think you're going to like it, but there are things that the game does that are not wrong. You can't point at this and say they made a bad decision here or that's bad game design, but it's just not for you, you know, where you're like, it's fuck, this is a me problem and not a game problem. You ever have any situations like that?
Yeah, I was literally just trying to think of some, and I know they're out there. I don't think of one, but yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So for me, the me problem that I have with this game is that I don't like the top-down format because it's very restrictive. The view, I'm used to playing a lot of milsim first-person shooters, which is all about positioning and observability. So it's like, let me get on that hill. I'll be able to see further, you know? And I've set up an ambush. I can see them coming, and once they come into the kill zone. But because it's top-down, your viewport is limited. And even when you go into like aim down sights mode and you can see a little bit further, they still restrict how much you can see. So if you're using a pistol and you try and look further, you can look maybe 50 meters. That's it. You're going to have a pair of binoculars to look further than that. And then the other thing is, I know why they did this. I think it's the right decision, but it's frustrating to me as a player personally, is that the combat, the movement, the shooting is very lumbering. It almost feels like Arma in a way, where it's like you can sprint, but then like when you try and you have to like volley over things and you do it slowly. When you you have to shoulder your gun, which means like holding down right mouse click. You can't just shoot willy-nilly. And then when you do that, you have a huge weapon spread, and then you have to wait for it to come down, right? And you have to get behind cover, and it's just like they made the movement and the shooting very, very good for what they're trying to do, because they don't want thousands of people just, you know, geometry wars running around shooting each other. That doesn't feel like a real war. But it's also frustrating for me, somebody who doesn't like top-down shooters and is having to work in this world where it's like, I can't see, and I'm struggling to learn the combat. But the reason why I say that is it went on sale recently. We've been playing games, milsim games, and I was like, man, it's really time for me to give Foxhole another chance. And I'm glad I did, because I kind of pushed through the combat, and I've played probably 90 minutes worth of combat, and I've gotten to a point where it does not frustrate me anymore. I'm not great at it, but it doesn't frustrate me anymore, so I'm still coming to terms with it. And the other thing I've been having fun with is logistics, which is, it feels, we were talking about this the other day when we played, but it feels so good to log on for 30 minutes, spawn in the back part of the war, go to a junkyard, pick up scrap, take it to a refinery, turn it into basic materials, take those basic materials to a factory, turn it into ammo, and dump the ammo off at a seaport. And know that at some point, some other person in the logistics chain is going to see that there's ammo in the seaport, and they're going to take it to the front line. And it's like, fuck yeah. It's almost like a reverse MMO, because I was thinking about Final Fantasy 14, because you did a lot of mining in Final Fantasy 14, right?
Yeah, it's the best part.
Yeah. And I was thinking, like, that's a very selfish game. Like, a lot of MMOs treat skills and professions and jobs very selfishly, right? Because you were not doing that for anybody else. You were doing that for you to gain XP, to get better skills, to get better money, better gear, etc. And there's nothing wrong with that, but that's selfish. Whereas Foxhole is the same thing, right? But I don't get anything from that. Like, I don't get any, I know there's like a ranking system, but people don't really care about that. I'm not getting XP that unlocks skills. I think the only thing I'm kind of getting is I get commendations, which I can then use to commend other people and like give them like a pat on the back, basically. And that's it. But it feels just as rewarding, because like when we hopped on and did combat the other day, you probably got tired of me saying this. I said it 4 or 5 times, but when you spawn in on the front line, all you have is a pistol and a magazine. You have a pistol and like 2 magazines. And then you have to, if you want anything more than that, You either got to scavenge it off dead bodies or you pull it off of the base. So you open the inventory of the base, you spawned out, and you see, okay, what's here? And that's all logistics that somebody's created. And so when I first started playing the game, I was like, do I pull a rifle? Like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to die and just waste this, right? And then it's like, do I pull a machine gun? I'm pretty sure I'm just going to waste a lot of ammo and not kill anybody. But now, because I've done so much crafting, when I spawn at that front line, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to take this submachine gun because I've earned it. Like, I spent 4 hours doing logistics yesterday. I have contributed a shitload to this war effort. And even to the extent where now, like, depending on what I'm pulling, like yesterday, I made like 200 submachine guns. So now if I spawn into a base and I see a submachine gun, I'm like, yeah, I earned that. I earned that. It may not be the exact one that I've crafted, but I earned the right to pull that from the base because I spent the effort of making that and the ammo for it. And it feels really, really good both to contribute and know that you're impacting the front line because people are active and chatting and being like, hey, we need this over here. We need that over here. And I'll be like, yeah, I just dropped off a bunch at this seaport. Come grab it. And also when you spawn and you pull things and you're like, I helped contribute to some of this. And you roll by a bunker, you roll by a trench, and you're like, that trench was made with bee mats that I helped make 3 days ago. And it's just like, again, you don't know that for certain, but because you've contributed to the war effort, you now feel like a part of any aspect of the war effort. And it's such a cool fucking feeling. I can't wait to play some more of it. You enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I really dislike the combat. Yeah. For all the reasons you stated and more. But I do like the logic of it all. But I was just, as I was saying to you pre-stream, I kind of wish it was, I really want a single player version of it where I can do everything, and set up factories and stuff and build stuff for a war effort. And
an auto battler.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I wouldn't be into this, but I was like walking around wanting to do logic and I just didn't want to touch anything and I didn't know what to do. So I like froze up and just logged off and played something else. So that's kind of the big issue. Like, I feel like the game does the thing where it relies on the community to teach you how to play the game. And if you're not someone who enjoys getting into a community, it's hard to learn a game. So, and that is me 100%. So I just I love the concept of it. I think it's a fantastic idea. I was literally thinking today while playing Metaphor, like, what if they came out with an MMO where like you had to do all the MMO jobs and then all the NPCs were the heroes and like you were doing all the logistics. But yeah, I don't know. I need to spend a couple sessions learning it because I want to do stuff, but I don't want someone to walk up to me and yell at me for touching something, you know, not saying they would, but that is like the anxiety.
I will say it's a pretty friendly community from what I've seen so far, but you're 100% right where it's hard to play this as a single player because as a single person, you're not going to impact the war that much. And there are some things that you cannot do as a single player. Like you can't do a tank single player because the driver is different from the shooter. You can't do artillery single player because you need 2 people minimum to turn the gun left and right. You know, and not to mention you need a spotter because you can't even see where your rounds are landing. And so while the community is very welcoming, if you're kind of like me where you're like, I'm not going to jump in and just join a random clan, etc. I kind of want to just log in, do my own thing and walk out. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. I wish I was the type of person that would just like join one of these clans and be like, yeah, what's up guys? What do you need? Yo, we're doing a push over here. I would love to do that. And again, the community is very welcome and opening for that. Like they're constantly recruiting. There's signs everywhere. Like next to the factory, there's signs that are like, hey, are you tired doing factory runs solo? Come join this clan, you know? So everybody's very welcoming. It's just my gaming personality wise, I probably won't join a Foxhole clan. But if it was you, me, Zach, and I think Chris has played before and some other people, if we had like a recurring night, or like we talked about doing a stream series where like we pick one of the quote unquote wars, which is like lasts between 10 to 30 days. And it's like they reset the map. Everything starts fresh. Everybody starts at the same tier 0 of the tech tree and they go until one of the sizes obtain victory conditions 10 to 30 days in. I'd love to do a stream series where it's just all of us just hopping on regularly to partake in that war and learning that story. I think that's probably the middle ground that we should shoot for. It's a stream series, multiple people, and that way we're not having to do big clan activities, but we could all get together and go like, hey, tonight we're going to do tanks. So let's build some tanks from scratch and take them to the front. You know, that type of stuff.
I'd be down. Yeah, it's fun, but yeah, it's like the combat on the front lines is the last thing I want to do in that game. It was, I mean, I understand it, and I just derive zero enjoyment out of it.
So I don't disagree, but that was your first time, and I kept saying this to you. That was probably my 90th minute of playing combat on the front lines. And that was the first time where I was like, oh, I'm actually doing okay. Like, I'm actually hitting people. And like, we were part of a big push where like, we weren't the ones driving it, but there were moments where like everybody was stuck. And I was like, yo, let's go get that silo. And we rush ahead in front of everybody and clear it just enough for the rest of the team to catch up to us. And we had a big push. And it took 90 minutes of the combat feeling like shit to get to a point where I was like, okay, I feel better at this. I feel confident. I understand what's going on. So it's one of those things where I think if you played a little bit more, I think you would reach a point. I'm not saying you would love it, but you would reach a point where you would start to understand it and grasp it a little bit better and feel better about the combat.
Yeah. Yeah, probably. It's just like, I don't even want to put forth the effort to like it better.
I know it's hard. It's hard to do solo, because the front line is just like, I was running around the other day and I was trying to get to the front line, and I accidentally stumbled through part of the enemy's front line because I went a different way, and I had to kill like 3 guys in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, that was pretty cool. I killed 3 guys and then I died, and then I was like, okay, but that meant nothing to the entire war front, you know. So it's definitely, it's hard to play this game single player and feel like you're, except for logistics. Because like in 30 minutes, you can make a shitload of materials and dump that off and be like, well, those bullets are going to go in some body somewhere, you know?
They're going to get used. They're going to miss if they're used by me. Although I say that, but I did defend a bridge quite well for a little bit before I died.
Yep.
But it was fun. What did WJ mean?
I don't know. But I do know what. No, that's WSJ.
A will jump?
I do know what. Will jump? I don't. For listeners at home, we have notes, and my notes under Foxhole, I put me problem. Check. Talked about that. Logi, which stands for logistics. Talked about that. And then I said WJ. I don't know. Wank job. I do have another game though, which I put in here under IN, called Infinity Nikki. Have you heard of this game, Will?
I was like, for a while, I was like, how did he get Indiana Jones early? Yes, I have heard of this game. This has some ass in it and some breasts, I believe.
You know, it does not. It does not. It does not. You would be mistaken, horny little boy. But this is basically... This is the same as Tencent's, what's that game? The gacha game. It's like Breath of the Wild. It's like Hot Guy Star Rail, or
are you trying to get me to say
Star
it?
Tail. What is that game called? I can't think of the name.
You don't know. I know.
No, I don't know what but you know what I'm talking about.
Genshin Impact.
Genshin Impact. It was Breath of the Wild clone, but it's like, it looks great, it plays well enough, and there's a bunch of materials and crafting stuff, and there's loot boxes in it. This is a different company that has made Infinity Nikki, but it's basically a like girls dress up game version of that. And it looked interesting. It's been getting great reviews. So I checked it out this morning for about 45 minutes, and I got really excited for this game. You know why I got really excited for this game?
Why?
It reminded me of, when I was thinking about what this game could be, it reminded me of Saber.
Okay.
Saber or Sable? The game, it's like stylish, cell shaded, red desert.
Yeah.
Sable.
And you're riding the thing.
Yes, because that game had no combat in it. It was just adventures, right? So it was kind of like a low stakes chill game.
Yeah.
And I thought that's what this was going to be, right? I thought this was going to be a low stakes chill game. And in large part it is. It's literally like, hey, you get your abilities by wearing different dresses, and you get, you know, you have you need to go around the world and collect whim stars so that you can unlock whim. I think it is. Like they basically, like, there's a skill tree, but it's called whim, and the skills are tied to dresses. So you unlock a sketch for a new dress, and then you have to find the materials to craft the dress. And like one of them gives you a double jump, one of them gives you, there's a little bit of combat. Like there's like guys that have like weird essences, and you have to like I'm not doing a good job of describing it, but they're like little weird gremlin guys, and they're just like,
they're all,
but they're not hurting you. They're just like, I'm blocking the door. And you have to like throw a purifying orb at them. That one, which is a power that one of your chests. Yeah. You just like throw a green orb at them. And, I got really excited because I liked the idea of like, what if somebody made like a really, really good pacifist open world adventure craft collectum game that is like targeting tween girls, where it's just like, you're not trying to get like better armor. It's like, no, man, just, get a cuter dress. You want them heels? You gotta, go find 10 apples and craft those cool heels. And I was like, you know what? That sounds delightful. Doesn't that sound delightful to play that kind of game? To just relax to that?
No.
You would not sit down on the couch and be like, you know what? I really want that blue dress today. So I'm going to go to the Cave of Mystery and find 12 golden mushrooms and then take them to the magic cat and have him craft me the blue dress. That's what I'm going to do today. And Maggie, come look at this. I look so fucking good in this blue dress, don't I, girl?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it for a blue dress.
And it's not sexualized. It's not sexualized, to be clear. It's literally like a Barbie dress up.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. But I mean, I know you're into that stuff, so
it's just like a cool thing where it's like, hey, what if we take the bones of a majority of video games but apply them in a better way, right? Which is kind of like what Sable did, where it's like, what if it's adventure but there's no combat, there's no worry about dying, right? Mm-hmm. Here's the problem, though. This is a gacha game, so it's got loot boxes. It's got lots of menus. I was playing it on the PS5. Cutscenes look fantastic. The game itself looks okay, and it runs at 30, and it hitches. Gameplay's okay. It's the same as Genshin Impact, where you're like, oh, there's collectibles over there. Oh, I got all these skill trees and stuff. I did have a very weird problem with this game, though. Very weird.
Too horny.
Sometimes, I played for about 40 minutes. There were about 10 different instances where the game did not recognize my button inputs. As in, I would be on a menu, and it would say, you unlocked a blue dress. And then it would say, circle button to confirm. And you press the circle button and nothing happens. and I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I thought it was my controller, because I would sit there and I press it for 10 seconds and then it would finally go. The game, I don't think the game was hitching, because again, I'm just in a menu.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh fuck, like, I hope it's not my controller, because it's my brand new Astrobot controller. But I would pop the PlayStation menu and the buttons would work fine there. Like, it literally happened 10 fucking different times where the game was just like, hey, for the next 30 seconds, we're not going to recognize a button input. Even though you're stuck in a menu and there's only one fucking button we need you to press, we're just not going to recognize that you're pressing that button. And that was infuriating. And it kept happening. It was fucking wild. Like, the only thing I could think of is if it was some weird network issue, because the game launched last night and I was playing this morning, but I wasn't in a shared area. I was literally just like going through the tutorial, pressing buttons to get in and out of menus in the tutorial. It was wild. Yeah. I wonder what very wild
would have affected that.
I think the game's just shit. I don't think the game's shit, but there's a really shitty bug in there somewhere where it's like, yep, we're just not gonna, I guess we're loading something in the background or we're doing something, so we're just gonna ignore button inputs for 10 seconds. It was wild, but it happened. It literally happened like 10 different times. It was wild.
That's wild.
Wild. Yeah. So, if you're into Genshin Impact, maybe try out Infinity Nikki. But if you're looking for a dress up game, I'm sure there's better ones out there. And to the game designers, hey, make more games like this. Not everything needs to be a generic adventure shooter with combat. I want to see more like chill, relax games because I'll play that shit.
Hey,
I'll play
chill,
that shit.
Relax, man.
Chill, relax, man.
Where are we going?
I'll play that shit. Play that shit.
Hey, man.
It's just like, let me. You want a taste of what this game is like?
No.
In terms of vibe, style, and feeling, all you have to do is go to the Infinity Nikki website, and it starts playing the theme song, which sounds, it's like the same style of song as Jump Up Superstar from Super Mario
Jump
Odyssey.
Up Superstar.
And I was like,
very far.
I was getting so excited because I was like, this game, I'm digging the vibes, but unfortunately, gameplay itself does not live up to that.
Damn. I'm pissed. The only reason I thought it was horny is because I thought I saw a thing about it this morning, but it might have been about the Honkai Star Rail.
Hey,
but maybe it wasn't.
You're not wrong. It's a lot of cute girls, and this is a very horny industry that sexualizes the shit out of women. So I understand exactly what you're going for. I mean, we just had Stellar Blade. We just had The First Descendants, which were just like very sexualized games out of Asia. But this one, this is going to sound weird, but I was literally looking for it as I was playing the game. I was like, is this game sexualized? And it's not. Like, they're not showing bust. They're not showing cleavage. They're not showing any butt bumps or anything. It's just like generic Barbie-like girls in cute outfits. That's it.
I will also say I was pretty surprised in Metaphor. And it's funny, you were mentioning your icks before with like the top-down combat in that game. A big ick for me usually in video games is when I click into a game and it's like either chibi or anime. Like it's just not a style that appeals to me. And so looking at Metaphor, I was like, I'm not quite that into it, but I actually do like the style. But the women and stuff in that I was very expecting to be like very overly sexualized and stuff, and none of them are at all really. Yeah. And I was very surprised by that. All of them except your little fairy companion, who has a great ass and a great body, and I'm like, you're a tiny little fairy who just have your feet out there for free, I guess. I'm just like,
now that you mention it, like Atlas games, like I play Persona 5. They do have some like cute, sexy women, but they're not like hyper sexualized. Yeah. It's just like, oh, she's a doctor, and she's like a goth doctor, and it's like, okay, all right, I'm feeling your vibe. She's your homeroom teacher, and you're like, okay, I'm feeling her vibe.
They can make people attractive and make people have cool outfits without making it about how hot they are and stuff like that. And even like I'm doing the English track in Metaphor, and it's funny because there's this guy, the wizard necromancer Zorba I was fighting. He's got like long purple hair, black lipstick, this like lace all over him, like a dress, wizard robes and everything, and it like looks like this hot tough guy, and he talks like this, aren't ya? And he's like this very like a heavy, I guess, Scottish Irish accent, which like does not match his look at all. And I'm just like, you know what? Go for it. And then of course they have the most disgustingly designed monsters that are like gross, and you're like, what the fuck is this? So, they're pretty much doing a great job. And I'm into that. So, yeah. I'm glad you're finally moved on from horny games. Very excited about that. Speaking of,
I mean, I could always go back.
You could always go. You could relapse. You could get in that Foxhole.
We are opening an OnlyFans.
That's true. I need to get back on that to we have to sign releases.
We have a lot of Extra Life promises that we are forgetting.
I did download 3D Movie Maker, and I was using it. It is actually a pretty usable program. And the only problem right now is there's like a couple GitHub repositories for it, and the one I use, like, it is like tiny on my screen, and I didn't know how to make it bigger. But as far as like, I set up a scene pretty quick, so I think we'll have a fun time with that. And I'm looking forward to that. News. Do you want to hit news real quick?
Yeah, we'll hit news real quick. There are some Nintendo Switch 2 leaks out there. These are coming out of various companies that are making accessories like screen protectors, as well as cases. And there's also some pictures of the Joy-Con that has allegedly leaked. I'll run through some of the key highlights here. The Joy-Cons will have larger SL/SR buttons. So if you remember when you took the Joy-Cons off, where the rail connected, you had these like tiny little buttons where the triggers would normally be, or where I guess where the bumpers would be. They're bigger now. The Joy-Cons look wider. There's a bit of a curve to their design, and there's also like a pedal back button is what this tweet is calling, which basically looks like a sideways trigger on the left Joy-Con below the normal trigger. As in like your index is on the trigger and then your middle finger is hitting a sideways trigger. I don't know if it's on both sides, though. These images did not make it clear. So very similar to what we've seen before. Again, all of these are alleged leaks, but nobody's really come out and said these are absolutely false. And we're close enough to the launch here, supposedly, that we're going to start seeing hardware leaks like this. The other thing is we've seen some screen protectors be images of screen protectors compared to a normal Switch 2 screen protector. And we can see that the screen is, I don't know, what would you call that? Maybe like 3/4 of an inch larger diagonally.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger.
And
3/4 of an inch.
And it loses the notch. I forget what the light sensor. So the Switch now has like a light sensor at the top of the screen. The new one does not, or at least there's not a notch on the screen protector for it. It looks like we are going to get a slightly bigger screen. And then the other thing is we've seen some cases as well. And okay, so these are cases. Looks like about the same form factor as Nintendo Switch in terms of, Joy-Cons left, right, screen in the middle. The interesting thing about these cases, though, they say Nintendo Switch 2 on them.
I was just about to ask about that. Do you think that's a placeholder? Is that an official logo?
If they've designed a case, it means they have enough information to have the hardware. And if they have that, why not go ahead and have access to the name as well? If you're getting access to the 3D render of the object in order to be able to make cases of it, you're probably going to know the name as well.
Of all the names we talked about that one time when we were trying to come up with names, I think a definitive 2 after Nintendo Switch is the only way to avoid is this the same console or a different console discussions.
Yeah, you can't say Super Switch, you can't say Switch Pro. And the other thing is as lame as it is, the market between phones, PlayStation, everything, even Hyundai has started to do this with their Ioniq cars. Every year they put a new number on it. The whole market is primed for new number means new model, and that's it. So I do think it is going to be the Nintendo Switch 2, which is what this picture of the case has, Nintendo Switch 2 on it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm excited. There is one other rumor. This did not have any hardware with it. Complete rumor. Nobody's corroborated this. It's just coming from sources who have had some accuracy in the past. The rumor is, I believe it's January announce, March release.
Ooh, that could be fun.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards believing that because, I think they said April release. So start of their fiscal year. They want to get this out soon. It's already been delayed and delayed and delayed. We have accessories out there. The rumors about hardware being shipped to factories, those are from months and months ago. So they have been making these. So I think the original was what? November announce, March launch. So this would be January announce, April launch. And Nintendo doesn't give a shit about December timeframe. So
it'll be 8 years since the Switch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm excited. This is going to be a day one purchase for me because my Switch is I'm excited for the bigger screen because playing Prince of Persia and that screen is a little small. It's not that small, but they've always had a little bit of trouble between games that need to look good on a big screen, but also be legible on a 1280 by 720. What is it, like a 6 or 6.5 inch, 7-inch screen? And sometimes it's a bit small, especially when you're at arm's distance. So I'm excited for a little bit bigger screen.
Yeah. Campfire Night, you're right in the chat saying the new number, it removes all confusion whether it's a new product, which the Wii U they never want that to happen again, ever.
Yeah.
So they have to do that. And same with like new Nintendo 3DS, like they just want to avoid that situation.
And I think not that this is Apple's fault or anything, but they're one of the biggest users of this. Is if you try and slap Pro, Max, anything like that, it reads as the same generation but fancier. It does not read as new generation. So I think it's got to be a number.
The one question I was going to ask you, those screen protectors, does that cover the entire bezel also?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
based on the screenshots they have of the original.
Because
I think it's well, actually no, I think it so the way the original screen protector, it looks like it's screen plus the sensors that are just above the screen. It's got little cutouts.
Because that bezel is the size of the OLED. So does that mean that new screen protector is about... I want to see that new screen protector compared to the size of the OLED screen protector, not the original screen protector.
Yeah, it's probably in between. So I think what you're trying to say is that the new screen is probably maybe a half inch bigger than the OLED screen is what it's like.
Well, yeah, well, the OLED just fills out the rest of the Switch, so it's probably... It depends on how big that screen protector is on the original versus the OLED size. So it's probably still bigger than the OLED, but it's not as big as a difference between the original and the new one.
And the one thing I wanted to do was I wanted to look at... The case has measurements on it. I didn't do this, but I wanted to look at what's the measurement of that case versus... the size of a Switch case, because it's very rough, but if that case is like a half inch wider than a normal Switch case, then you could probably factor out, okay, if all the proportions are the same as an OLED, then it means the screen is probably a quarter of an inch bigger or whatever. I didn't do that math though. I do think this case is slightly bigger than what a normal Switch is. So I think overall this console will be... The Joy-Cons already look wider. Screen looks bigger. I think this is going to be a slightly larger console.
Yeah,
that's okay.
I think so too.
I mean, that Switch is pretty small. Pretty small, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah. No, as long as there's a bigger screen, I'm happy. You want to hit this content call out? You want to get out of here?
Yeah, I'll hit this content call out. It's been here a little while, but you ever played the game Plague Inc?
No.
2012. I never played it either, but it was very popular. It had 190 million players. It was designed by James Vaughn. And basically it's a game where you try and infect the entire world with the virus. So the game was very popular when it came out in 2012. It gained a lot of popularity in 2020 because of COVID as well. It was a fun game. A lot of people loved it. I just wanted to give a shout out to this game designer because he's launched a new game called After Inc., which is similar, but it's a post-apocalypse world builder. It's like, hey, the world has ended, but now we've got to build it back. And it's this really cool moment where he's like, this is from Steven Totilo at GameFile. He has an interview here where he talks about like, hey, Plague Inc. was a cool game. I'm glad it was successful, but that was a bit of a dour. That was a bit of a pessimistic game. And I wanted to do something in the same style, but optimistic of, hey, let's build the world back together. And this came out on mobile, came out on Steam. I have downloaded, I haven't played it yet, but it's a city builder 4X strategy game, but like with a positive vibe to it. And I just think that's really cool. We were talking about Infinity Nikki earlier. Like, we don't have to tread in the same themes over and over again, the same gameplay loops, the same mechanics. We can do more positive things. We can be happier, folks, right? Yeah. I mean, hey, yesterday we got some great happy news yesterday. World's a better place now, so
Damn. Damn.
I'm not taking it back. I'm not going to take it back. Yeah, let's just stay positive, folks. Things are looking up.
Yeah. Let's hear it for the boys. That's gonna be it for the show, folks. Thank you so much for being here. Campfire night, always lovely to see you in the chat. I know you like my mustache. Thank you. Folks, we will be back. You know, I bought some pomade and a little well, this is wax, but I bought some pomade to try that out, and some a little brush and a comb. I'm mostly keeping it because Karen likes it, so that's a net positive. Folks, we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow night. Ian's playing Children of the Sun, I think. Children of the Corn.
Am I?
I think so. Tomorrow night.
I know I am. Sorry, let me check. We're getting there, folks. Yes, tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to be playing Children of the Sun. That's another GOTY contender. Heard great things about it. It's a puzzle sniper game, so go check it out. 5 p.m. Eastern.
Contender. Subpixelfilms.com. I'm going to PAX East PAX Unplugged this weekend. I'm going to film some stuff for Pixelate. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.